Rogue, it's time for Rogue's Reads. Are you ready for your book club? Oh, kitty, 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 kitty. Really? You wanted to do Daisy Ray's book club, but you don't want to do your own? All right. You want to fist scratch your head? No. All right. Hi, guys. I'm Renee. I'm the children's librarian at Salem Public Library in Salem, Ohio. I'm sorry I put my hand in front of the camera both times I've done this today. And this is Rogue's Reads. That was Rogue being a snob and not wanting to do book club. But say Daisy Ray is here. She's taking a nap while I read. Actually, I don't think she's actually asleep, are you? No. Okay, so yeah, Rogue's Reads. This is our virtual book club for kids in 4th to 8th grade. And we have been making our way through the Genius Files by Dan Gutman. And we are currently on book 3, You Only Die Twice. I am still really enjoying this series. In fact, I don't know, I actually just, realized, like, I had a theory, or like, I thought this was going to happen, and it turned out not to be at all, so that was kind of fun. I like to make predictions about what's going to happen and see if they come true. Before I get started, I actually am reading from a digital copy today on my laptop. I know, I'm sure I'm not the only one that is very tired of looking at screens right now. You know what, I think I will always prefer to have an actual book in my hands. As wonderful as the digital access has been over the last couple months, it's just wonderful to have a real book. And because, we know that, and we want to share our library materials. So although the library is not technically open for people to come in yet, we are doing pickups. So if you need some books or DVDs or CDs or whatever, whatever kind of material it is you're looking for, go on our website and place things on hold or give us a call. And both our website and our Facebook have detailed descriptions on how to do all this. We'll get it ready for you. You can come straight to the library to pick it up. We'll bring it right out to your car, so you don't even have to get out of the car. Actually, we don't want you to get out of the car. But yeah, we can get you some books now, which is very exciting. I'm really glad we can offer this to our patrons. So if you're needing some materials, please get a hold of us, and we will get you something to read or watch or listen to, whatever your fancy is. See, we just started that yesterday. It's kind of so be patient with us. It's a learning process for us as well as for you guys. But we're very pleased to be able to, get back to at least circulating materials for you. So anyways, our book. We were promised at the beginning of this book that Coke was going to get put into a giant shredder, and it hasn't happened yet. And we're starting chapter 7 today. So hopefully this giant shredder thing, I hope it happens soon. I actually was really excited about reading this one because one of the place that they're going to visit today is actually on my personal bucket list. When I drove through Virginia with my husband last fall, I even, we saw signs like, we are going there someday. I think that's a destination for us to visit. We just, at that time, couldn't make it work schedule-wise, so it's on our bucket list, or mine at least. I'll just take him with me. So, okay, where we left off yesterday, they were getting drinks at the snack truck at the battlefield, and got drug into the woods by bad guys. We ended with Pep with, "We're gonna die," Pep tried to yell. I knew it, we're gonna die. So chapter 7, the coast is clear. Coke and Pep were lowered to the ground more gently than they expected. When they ripped the pillowcases off their heads, their kidnappers had familiar faces. "Bones!" shouted Coke. "Maya!" shouted Pep. Now, if you had read the first 2 Genius Files books, you would know that Bones and Maya are on the side of goodness and niceness. They once worked for Dr. Warsaw to start the Genius Files project, but quit when he lost his mind and became determined to kill off all the children. At that point, they made it their mission to help Coke and Pep and any other Genius Filers who were being pursued by Dr. Warsaw or his henchmen. That's okay, you know it now. The important thing is that Bones and Maya are friends and had already saved the twins' lives several times. "What are you doing here?" Pep asked as she hugged them. We came to see you two, Maya told her. We have good news. It's about time, Cook said. We have intercepted several text messages over the last few days, Bones reported, looking around to make sure they were alone. Dr. Warsaw, it seems, is genuinely head over heels in love with your Aunt Judy and is no longer interested in hurting children. Love will do that to a man. He's as harmless as a puppy dog now. I don't believe that. And we've also heard that Mrs. Higgins and those bowler dudes are out of the assassination business, Maya said, so you can rest easy. Pep, for one, wasn't buying it. Can you trust those text messages you intercepted? Pep asked. Yeah, Cook added. How do we know there aren't any new enemies out to get us? Like that Archie clone jerk. He came out of the woodwork. I can't offer any guarantees, Bones told them, but I'm pretty confident the coast is clear. You can live your lives. You don't need us anymore. Yeah, well, just in case, how about giving us something to defend ourselves, asked Coke. Like a few of those cool Frisbee grenades, like the one we used to blow up Archie Clone's helicopter. Well, we can't do that, Maya said, reaching into her handbag. The Frisbee grenades cost $50,000 each. But we did bring you a little goodbye present. She pulled out a small plastic jar with some kind of liquid inside. What is it? Pep asked. Maya unscrewed the top of the jar and pulled out a little black wand with a circle at the end. She dipped it into the liquid and blew on it. Bubbles floated out through the air. You got us bubbles? Pep was incredulous. I know, Coke said. They're probably exploding bubbles, right? You blow them into some bad guy's face and boom, his head is blown off. That's ingenious. Thanks. I can't wait to try this out. They're not exploding bubbles, Bones said. I'm sorry. No? Oh, I get it, said Coke. The bubbles are filled with poison gas, right? You blow on and when it pops, your enemy inhales the gas and drops dead instantly, right? Cool. What will you people think of next? There's no poison gas in the bubbles, Coke, Maya told him. Maybe the poison gas just puts you to sleep, Coke suggested, or into a coma. That's awesome. No, the only gas in the bubbles is oxygen, Maya explained. They're just plain old bubbles. We picked them up in a gift shop. You blow them. They float around. They're pretty. We thought you'd like them. Just be careful not to get them in your eyes. The soap stings like the dickens. Gee, thanks a lot, Cook said, taking the jar. Now that I have bubbles, I can defend the free world. I feel a lot better. A lot safer. We already told you, Maya said. The coast is clear. You don't have to worry anymore. What about the cipher we received? Pep asked. Level Viz I or Level Viz 1. It was part of the 4th of July fireworks show we saw in Washington. I don't think it's a cipher, Maya said. It sounds more like a typo or something. Even if it was a cipher, Bones told him, how do you know it was meant for you? There were thousands of people there yesterday. The message, if there was one, could have been intended for anybody in that crowd. I guess you're right, Pep said. Well, I just wanted to say that it has been a pleasure working with you two, Bones said. Our job is done now. We wish you the best of luck in your future, wherever it may lead you. After a group hug, the twins ran back to the RV where their parents were waiting. Where were you two? Mrs. McDonald said sternly. You were just supposed to get sodas. We were looking all over. There was a time when the twins would tell a lie to get out of trouble, but that never worked. They would forget the lie they had told, or it would be proven not to be true. And at some point, Coke decided it was simply easier to tell the truth. We were kidnapped by a couple of Union soldiers at the snack truck, he explained. They put pillowcases over our heads and dragged us in the woods. Then they gave us this jar of soap bubbles. And what's Dr. McDonald going to say? Ha ha, that's a good one, Dr. McDonald said. You kids crack me up. Oh, Dr. McDonald. I kind of feel like he's a little clueless. Chapter 8, A Difference of Opinion. That Civil War reenactment was cool, Pep said, as Dr. McDonald pulled the RV onto Route 522 out of Culpeper. Mrs. McDonald smiled to herself as she leafed through her Virginia guidebook. She loved it when an activity she had chosen was enjoyable to the whole family. It's usually hard to please everybody, and especially the kids. They usually hated everything, or said they did anyway. It was close to noon and the temperature had climbed past 90. Dr. McDonald always tried to avoid running the air conditioner because it robbed the RV, which already guzzled gas, of mileage. But on this day, he shut the windows and turned up the AC. Coke and Pep munched on trail mix Mrs. McDonald had prepared earlier. You know, we should go to George Washington's house, Mount Vernon, suggested Dr. McDonald, and Thomas Jefferson's home, Monticello. I don't think they're too far from here. Everybody goes to those places, Ben, Mrs. McDonald said dismissively. Everybody goes to those places because they're places worth going to, Dr. McDonald replied. Do you know why the Pez Museum and the Spam Museum were so empty? Because nobody wants to go there. Nobody cares about Pez or Spam. Coke and Pep sat in the back, pretending not to be drinking in every word. As you know, it's always interesting to listen to your parents fighting. In any case, Mount Vernon and Monticello were not exactly on the route Mrs. McDonald had plotted out. They were heading west through Virginia now, on Route 522. Hey, guess what they have near Fredericksburg, Mrs. McDonald suddenly asked. A lot of guys named Frederick? Coke guessed. No, his mother said. A tomb with Stonewall Jackson's arm in it. His arm? Asked Pep. Yes, remember they told us that his arm had to be amputated after he got shot in the Civil War? The soldier wasn't joking. That arm has its very own grave near Fredericksburg. I guess they disarmed him, cracked Coke. That's a pretty bad joke. Very funny, Dr. McDonald said. That would be great for Amazing But True, Mom, Pep said. The burial site of an arm? Hey, do you think Stonewall Jackson read A Farewell to Arms before he died? Asked Coke. That book hadn't even been written when he died, Mrs. McDonald told him. It was a joke, Mom. Coke rolled his eyes. He made a mental note to work on his theory that after the age of 30, the part of the brain that controls sense of humor withers away and dies. We should totally go there, Pep said. I want to see it. We're heading west, Dr. McDonald said. Fredericksburg is an hour east of here. I'm not driving an hour out of my way to see an arm. You can't see the arm itself, dear, Mrs. McDonald told him. You would just see the gravesite where the arm is buried. Well, I'm not driving an hour out of my way to see the gravesite of an arm. Mrs. McDonald sighed. Her website received over 1 million hits a week, which made her the main breadwinner of the family. That means she makes more money. Dr. McDonald was a history professor at San Francisco State University who wrote scholarly books like The Impact of Coal on the Industrial Revolution. Sadly, the average person is more interested in Spam and Pez than they are in coal. It was the advertising revenue from Amazing But True that paid for the trip. So when it came to deciding what places they would visit, Mrs. McDonald usually called the shots. But not this time. Dr. McDonald didn't put his foot down often, but when he did, there was no more argument. And he was doing all the driving, which counted for something. It's a historic arm, honey, Mrs. McDonald said, giving it one last try. It's Stonewall Jackson's arm. I don't care if it's Vincent van Gogh's ear, Dr. McDonald said, raising his voice. I'm not driving an hour out of my way to see the gravesite of a body part. If it was his whole body, maybe I'd think about it. And that was the end of that. But it was okay because there are a lot of other amazing but true places in the state of Virginia. You probably don't know this, dear reader, but in Arlington, Virginia, there's an 18-foot tall mermaid carved into a tree. In Bealton, there's a giant roller skate outside a roller rink. There's a house built out of old tombstones in Petersburg. Ooh, who would want to live there? There's a big watering can outside a garden center in Alexandria, and the birthplace of George Washington's mother is in Alfonso. You have to set your priorities, Dr. McDonald kept repeating. We can't see everything. While his parents argued back and forth in the front seat, Coke blew some bubbles with the jar Bones and Maya had given him. Pep pulled out her notebook. She'd been thinking about the cipher they received at the end of the 4th of July fireworks, but so far had not been able to solve it. She stared at the letters again. Level Viz 1, or Level Viz I. What could that mean? She tried all the usual code-breaking strategies, reverse letters, every other letter, every second letter. Nothing worked. She sighed and put the notebook away. If Bones and Maya were right, it didn't matter anyway. Nobody was chasing them now. They could relax. What do you guys think? Are they safe? I don't believe it. Bones and Maya might think that they're safe, but I don't know. I still think Dr. Warsaw's after him. Mrs. Higgins is probably still out there. And there are probably others. I mean, Archie Clone can't be the only one who realized that in order to get lots of money, he needed to take care of the other Genius File kids, right? I just feel like this isn't over. Yeah, let's get back to our story here. Hit the brakes, Ben, Mrs. McDonald suddenly shouted. What? Dr. McDonald shouted, stomping his foot on the pedal. Did we run over an animal? No! Look! Here's the sign. Luray Caverns. This is on my bucket list. I want to go to the Luray Caverns. There was a large sign at the side of the road. Caves are cool, Coke said, in more ways than one. 54 degrees, 24 hours a day. Let's go, Pep shouted. They pulled into the parking lot. Dr. McDonald paid the admission and got 4 sets of audio guides, 2 for the kids and 2 for the grown-ups. Meet you in the gift shop at the end of the tour, Mrs. McDonald told the kids. How do you know there's going to be a gift shop, Mom? Pep asked. There's always a gift shop. Coke and Pep put on their headphones and walked down a long series of stairs, ramps, and brick paths until they had reached the entrance to the caverns deep within the earth. It was pitch dark except for some tiny lights on the floor to help people find their way. The twins held on to the handrail for safety. This place is creepy, Pep said. But Coke was listening to the lady's voice on the audio guide. You are about to enter Luray Caverns. Welcome. On the morning of August 13th, 1878, a tinsmith named Andrew Campbell was walking with a candle on a hill west of Luray, Virginia. Suddenly, cold air rushing out of a limestone sinkhole blew out the candle. And that was the day Luray Caverns was discovered. Does that voice sound familiar to you? Pep asked her brother, but with his own headset on, he couldn't hear her. The path turned a corner and opened up to a spellbinding sight. A gigantic room filled with majestic stalactites and stalagmites of all sizes. Multicolored lights had been strategically hidden to illuminate the rock formations and throw off spooky shadows. Some of the stalactites slowly dripped water into a dream lake that formed a mirror image of the formations above it. Coke and Pep stood there open-mouthed. It was like a magical world. The formations you see are calcite, a crystalline form of limestone. Caves result from a simple formula: a layer of limestone, a mildly acidic mixture of water and carbon dioxide, and time, millions of years. I could swear I've heard that voice before, Pep muttered. They walked through several other chambers until they reached one that was called the cathedral. In this room, they found the great stalacpipe organ, the world's largest musical instrument. The lady on the audio guide explained that it took 36 years to connect rubber-tipped mallets to hundreds of stalactites in this cave. When the mallets are struck, it creates a sound unlike anything else in the world. So that's why I want to go here. The voice on the audio guide paused, and eerie, haunting music began to play all around them. The hairs on Pep's arms stood up. She was beginning to get one of those feelings she gets, the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The twins were alone in the cathedral room, or so they thought. Coke felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned around. It was Mrs. Higgins. I thought they were done with her. Yes, Mrs. Higgins, the germ-phobic and psychotic health teacher who had set the twins' school on fire, chased them through the house on the rock, forced them to cause a riot at Wrigley Field in Chicago, and tried to blow their eardrums out at a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland. She still had a scar across her neck from where they had clotheslined her with a ball of twine in Wisconsin. Coke and Pep involuntarily recoiled in horror at the sight of the tall woman backing up against the clammy cave wall. I know what you're thinking, dear reader. You're thinking that Mrs. Higgins is going to throw Coke into a giant shredder. But that's not what happened at all. Well, if it isn't the McDonald twins, Mrs. Higgins said, smiling sweetly. Fancy meeting you two here. It was you, Pep said, pointing at her. You're the voice on the audio tour. Guilty as charged, she replied. How did I sound? Don't touch us, Coke warned. I'm warning you. I have a brown belt in karate. Congratulations, Mrs. Higgins said. Don't worry, I never touch the visitors. That is strictly forbidden by company rules. She took a step back and held up both hands to prove that she had no weapon. What are you doing here? Pep demanded. Why do you keep showing up wherever we go? I work here. Dear, Mrs. Higgins said, I'm just trying to make a living. I got laid off when the school burned down, you know. You burned the school down yourself, Coke shouted at her. Believe me, it's not easy getting a job these days, said Mrs. Higgins. The economy is terrible. You can't fool us, Pep said. You work for Dr. Warsaw. You're in love with him, and you'll do anything he says to make him happy, including killing innocent kids. You're a paid assassin. Mrs. Higgins put her hand over her heart as if taken aback by the accusation. She appeared to get misty-eyed at the mention of Dr. Warsaw's name. All right, so this is where I'm going to admit, I really thought that when they got to the wedding and they discovered that Aunt Judy was marrying Dr. Warsaw, I thought for sure that Aunt Judy was actually Mrs. Higgins. I thought for sure like she'd turn around, because remember they hadn't seen Aunt Judy in a long time, so they wouldn't recognize her. I thought for sure when she turned around, or they lifted up her wedding veil, it was going to be Mrs. Higgins. So I was actually kind of surprised that it wasn't. So apparently he has more than one woman in love with him, and I don't know. No, ladies, don't go. Girls, don't go for the bad guys. Just don't. All right, back to our story here. Okay, I did do a little, shall we say, freelancing for Dr. Warsaw, she admitted, but those days are over. He's married now, and I finally had to admit that he never really loved me in the first place. In the end, he had me stealing hats for that kid who looked like Archie from the comics. It was pathetic what I did for that man's approval, to be honest with you. She wiped a tear from her eye, and Pep found herself feeling a small degree of sympathy for Mrs. Higgins. She almost wanted to give her a hug. She's lying, Coke told his sister. Don't fall for that crap, Pep. I was going through a phase back then, Mrs. Higgins said, her eyes brightening. But those days are in the past. Now I have a new passion, spelunking. Spelunking? Pep asked. Exploring caves. I don't believe you for a second, Coke said. We trusted you the last time, and now we're supposed to believe that you just happened to get a job at Luray Caverns when we're here, just like you happened to get the job at Wrigley Field when we were in Chicago? Give me a break. You can believe whatever you want, Coke, said Mrs. Higgins, but look, if I wanted to harm you two, I could do it right now. Couldn't I? She turned around and made a sweeping gesture across the cathedral room with her arm. You see these stalagmites, she continued? Some of them are sharper than a razor. How easy would it be for me to grab one of you and push you down on top of one? Ooh. Mrs. Higgins had a glassy look in her eye. Coke and Pep took a step backward. That's all it would take, Mrs. Higgins went on. A little shove. One of these stalagmites could pierce through human flesh like a knife through butter. All I would have to do to tell my boss would be, oops, it was an accident. These crazy kids were roughhousing with each other. I tried to stop them, but you know how kids are. She seemed to get excited thinking about pushing somebody onto a stalagmite. Or maybe I could do it over in the back corner there where it's dark, she said. You'd get impaled on 2 stalagmites, and I'd just leave you there to rot. They wouldn't find you for years. Eventually, your bodies would calcify, and you'd become part of the caverns. Ew. She had a wistful look on her face like she was recalling a fond memory, but then she shook her head to clear it. But of course, I don't do that anymore, Mrs. Higgins said. I'm turning over a new leaf, as they say. Pep grabbed Coke by the elbow. Let's blow this pop stand, she whispered, dragging her brother toward the exit. Hey, did you send us a cipher at the 4th of July fireworks? Coke asked as they were leaving. I don't know what you're talking about. Liar. Bye now, Mrs. Higgins called after them sweetly. It was so nice to see you. Do come again. Watch your step on your way out. I don't want anyone to get hurt. Then she broke into a cackling laugh. Coke and Pep ran out of there 2 steps at a time. And that's where we're going to stop today. But Coke still hasn't been put in a shredder. I don't know. I think maybe the author was making stuff up when he told us that there was going to be a giant shredder. Maybe tomorrow. We'll find out. So join me tomorrow afternoon and we will find out more about what happens to Coke and Pep at the Luray Caverns. Hopefully they get out safe. and we'll see what their next adventure is. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.